on vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing yet another vinyl haul. This time, I will be covering all the records that I have acquired within the months of May and June of 2018. I did not suspect that this haul would be as big as it turned out to be, and I can say that I am so glad to have all these records in my collection finally. If you follow me on social media, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, I have shown these records off, but if you're not on social media or you haven't caught up with me on social media, I will be showcasing these records off, and I'll even point out some particular pressings and whatnot. So enough of the chit chat, let's jump into what this video is all about. So the first record that I'm going to show is one that I mentioned a couple weeks ago in a previous video on this channel. That is Foreigner's Head Games, and as you can tell by the top band, original master recording, this is indeed a Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab pressing. This is my first MoFi record that I have in my collection. I snagged this for a pretty good price of about 20 bucks on Amazon, which is good considering what the MoFi pressings normally go for. And I pretty much just wanted to get what the whole MoFi thing was all about. They are a highly reputable company with both vinyl collectors and audiophiles, and I was very pleased with the results. I mean, yeah, this isn't much of an audiophiles album, but I pretty much got the message straight across. It sounds great, the packaging is superb, and very, very satisfied with it. So, very good way to kick off this vinyl haul. Up next is a record by an artist that I actually started listening to a lot recently. Of course, I've always been aware of him for most of my life, and I've heard his songs on radio and whatnot, but it hasn't been until now that I've been starting to kind of dig my way through his discography, and that, of course, is Billy Joel. This is The Stranger, and this is a great way to kind of work your way through Billy Joel's stuff, because literally every song on this record is a hit. You have tracks like Moving Out, the title track, Just the Way You Are, Only the Good Die Young, She's Always a Woman. You can't really go wrong with this. Where I work at, we would play the Billy Joel Greatest Hits CD. I think it's like part 1 and part 2. And the part 1 portion of the album featured most of the songs that are on this record. So I was pretty much already fond with about, I would say, 75% of it. So it's tracks like Vienna and Get It Right the First Time, you know, things like that that I listened to for the first time. But overall, I was very pleased with this record and the flow of it and everything. And I would say it's definitely essential for any vinyl collection, indeed. Up next is a box set that I had had my eye on for quite some time, and I would always see it go up and down in prices, but for whatever reason I just wasn't able to pull it off at the time. But this time around, I saw it and it was like less than 30 bucks, and I just knew that I had to snag it, and that is Led Zeppelin's Celebration Day. This is the reunion show that the band did in 2007 at the O2 Arena. This, of course, features Jason Bonham on drums, which was John Bonham's son. The set list on this is absolutely excellent. You have things like Good Times, Bad Times, Ramble On, For Your Life, like some tracks that are rarely performed live but are staples in the Led Zeppelin canon. There is no missed opportunities on this release, and I'm so glad to have it, and it sounds spectacular. Funny enough, around the time when I bought this and when I finally gave it a spin, I played this on the day that I actually graduated from community college, and so that was a celebration day of sorts. Get the joke? Kind of funny. I'm just kidding. Anyways, up next is I would say this is the most notable addition to my collection in this haul. I did do an unboxing of it on the channel. I streamed it live, and I would say it's one of the videos that has attracted the most views, which I am very, very thankful for. And that, of course, is Pulse by Pink Floyd. They are still reissuing the catalog, and they put out this. This is a 4 LP box. Comes with a hardbound book, features Dark Side of the Moon live in its entirety, and a bunch of other great tracks from the Division Bell tour. What can one say about these Pink Floyd reissues? They just sound absolutely wonderful. I love the way that they did this, and it's just really great to see this get reissued, because original pressings go for a very pretty penny. So it's glad to see them put this out again for all us Pink Floyd fanatics and vinyl junkies out there. And of course, I didn't stop there. Had to get relics. This is a compilation of tracks from 67 to 69. So you get singles like Arnold Lane and See Emily Play, and you also get some album cuts like Interstellar Overdrive and Remember a Day. And you also get B-sides such as Paintbox, Careful What That Axe Eugene, and you even get a unreleased track called Biding My Time, well, then unreleased. Honestly, if you're very curious about the early Pink Floyd stuff, I mean, because everyone kind of starts at Dark Side and works their way up, but if you're very curious to see what the early Pink Floyd's all about, go to this. This is absolutely excellent. Love, love, love this compilation, and so glad that it got reissued. Up next is another record that I did an unboxing of on the channel, and that, of course, is the newest album from Courtney Barnett. This is an album called Tell Me How You Really Feel. Kind of follows the same kind of flow and style as her first album. Really enjoyed it a lot. I've only spanned this once, and I got the digital download, so I need to listen to it more to get it more ingrained in me, but I did love it upon first listen. And of course, it is one of the limited colored pressings. This is from, I believe it was the Merch Table website. This is their exclusive, and it comes on a very nice kind of purple, somewhat translucent vinyl with black swirls. Looks very nice, very beautiful. This is probably one of the most gorgeous looking vinyl pressings that I have in my collection. That's good, so just put that back. And then up next is a record that I had ordered from Soundstage Direct. They're a company based out of Pennsylvania and just a basic vinyl retailer. They sell vinyl gear and whatnot. And if you spend up to a certain amount of money, you get 20% off of your order. So I figured, hey, can't really beat that. So I placed an order. I ordered a bunch of records. But unfortunately, at the time when my order was placed, they were in the middle of changing up warehouses, and a lot of orders got backed up, and unfortunately my order was one of them. So there was a bit of a delay in getting the records in that order. So far, my order is coming in 3 shipments. I have received 2 so far, so I'm waiting on 1 more. I'm not going to give them any hassles, you know, if companies get backed up sometimes, so I'm not gonna, you know, raise hell about it. So I waited patiently, and they always offered to ship my stuff out as soon as they got it in a free second shipment and whatnot, so can't really complain there. So this is one of the first records that came from that order. This is Nick Drake's Pink Moon. This is, of course, this was his last album that he released, and honestly, this is the best way to experience Nick Drake's music. There's no string arrangements, there's no band accompaniment, it's just him, his acoustic guitar, with the minor piano overdub on the title track. It is so minimalist, it's beautiful. I mean, this is a must-have for any record collection. Now, this pressing is very, very interesting, and I'll explain why. Right off the bat, this is a reissue that came out, I'm going to say, around 2013. And overseas in England, a company called Back to Black put this out, and actually this uses the first generation tapes because 5 Leaves Left, they had to use a digital transfer because the master was completely damaged up. And then Brighter Later, his second album, had to use a copy because something was up with the first generation master. So this uses the true original master. Interesting enough, Side A on this particular reissue, it has the etchings in the dead wax that indicates that this was pressed at Optimal pressing plant in Germany, and it was mastered by Sean McGee at Abbey Road Studios. I flip it over on Side B, and it has the etchings to indicate that it was pressed at United here in the US, and it was mastered by Wes Garland at Nashville Record Productions. So from just the dead wax alone, I'm gonna say that this record is mastered by 2 different mastering engineers on both sides. I was a bit concerned because I wasn't quite sure if the mastering would rack up in similarities, if it would sound consistent throughout, but to my ears, it sounded very, very well. So, a bit of an interesting thing with this record. If anyone has this reissue and you have the same kind of thing that I had, please let me know. I'm quite curious. Anyways, up next is some records that I got from a Tunes up in Voorhees in Jersey. I was out with a girlfriend and we went out to dinner, and that there was a Tunes in Turnersville, but unfortunately they closed down. But I was kind of curious to see if there was one nearby, so we took a little trip to Voorhees and we decided to take a look and see what they had. And it kind of reminded me of how much I missed going to record stores, because I work a pretty busy work week and I don't really have time to drive out to record stores, independent ones that is, because there's not really a whole lot around me. So it definitely made up for, not having gone to one in a while, and I found some excellent stuff. This I found was kind of in the discount bin of just stuff that they were just trying to get rid of, and they marked down the price. And this right here is Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls. Now, this isn't any ordinary pressing. This is a reissue that came out, I'm going to say, early this year, I believe. And it comes on a gorgeous sort of burst black and blue vinyl, which looks really nice. I have no records in my collection that look as beautiful as this. Looks very nice. And from what I can see, it's the same plating and lacquers that they used to press up this as a reissue, I believe, in the late 2000s. And that sounds great, because all the Motley Crue stuff is done by Kevin Gray, who is a reputable audiophile mastering engineer. Not to say that Motley Crue is an audiophile's band, but they sound very good nonetheless. And one surprising thing I must say about the Tunes that I visited was the amount of Record Store Day leftovers. I was quite surprised to see so many records still on the wall from Record Store Day. That even being some of the Bowie stuff had not flown off shelves. I'm quite surprised. But of course, I kind of looked around a bit and tried to, because when it comes to Record Store Day, you really got to justify if you want a particular record for your collection because you're going to sit back and enjoy it, or do you want it because it's a Record Store Day pressing and it's going to go for big money down the road. It's one of those things that you have to think about. So this one right here, they had 3 copies left. I got a copy for my dad because this band is one of my dad's favorites, and of course I like the band as well, and I really kind of wanted a copy for myself, so I bought 2 copies of it. And that is the Jethro Tull Moths EP. Now this EP is pretty cool because all the songs on here are from the Heavy Horses period, and this year in 2018 is celebrating the 40th anniversary of that album. It was recently remixed by Steven Wilson, and they put out a deluxe CD DVD package of it. So this features the song Moths and a bunch of other outtakes that didn't make it on the album, and some live cuts, which is pretty cool if you kind of want to get a little portal into the 1978 time bubble that is Jethro Tull. Very cool. And up next, and now this isn't really vinyl related, but I saw this hanging on a wall, and I asked the guy, I was like, how much do you want for this poster? He's like, we'll take it down for you. It's all yours. And that is a poster promoting the Ghost live album, Ceremony and Devotion, which I am very glad to have. I do have to get a frame for this. Backside has a live shot of the band. So very nice of them to give this to me at free of cost, which is very nice. And up next is a record that I was very curious on checking out, and it dropped at a price that I thought was completely justifiable, and that is Rolling Stones' Let It Bleed. Now this record kind of is a bit of a transitional period because Brian Jones is kind of slowly drifting away from the band, and you have Mick Taylor coming up to the forefront. And overall, very steady record because you have Gimme Shelter, Live With Me, which is such a raunchy rockin' song. Then you also have Midnight Rambler, Can't Always Get What You Want. Very good stuff. And the cool thing with this pressing is that it is pressed on very nice clear vinyl. And I do have to say, this is probably the clearest vinyl that I have ever seen in my life. You can just see right through the dead wax. That is crazy. So that was cool. And then, because I had bought the Stones record, I kind of had a little bit of the buyer's blood in me to see what else was missing in my collection. And then I decided to pull the trigger on this. Now, this is a record that I have it on CD, but I never ever listened to it, and the only reason why I have it on CD is because the band was selling autographed copies through Amazon.co.uk, and I kind of wanted it just because I was a fan of the band, but I figured I'll sit down and listen to the album when I get the vinyl version, and I finally got the vinyl version. This is the Kaiser Chiefs Stay Together. I've mentioned this band before on the channel. They're a great kind of indie rock band based out of Leeds in England. It's funny how I said indie rock band. This record is the farthest thing away from being indie rock. This is kind of more of a I don't know if you can call it dance alternative, but it's like alternative pop kind of stuff. They definitely went for a change of direction on this. I did like it and I did enjoy it, but it's just so different. It wasn't too hard to swallow though. The songs were catchy, but I don't know. It's just a different kind of animal. But then again, the record sleeve is quite stimulating with all the colors, which is pretty cool. And then up next, this is one that dropped a couple bucks down on Amazon, and I figured jump on it while I can. The buyer's blood was seriously getting to me at this point. This is Jimi Hendrix Blues. This is a compilation that brings together all kinds of associated blues recordings by Hendrix. Now, I have to say, I love Jimi Hendrix. His guitar work is absolutely amazing. But when I was listening to this record, I kind of realized how stagnant the blues can be. Basic 1-4-5 chord sequence. After a while, I'm just like, okay, I've no disrespect to the blues genre, but I've kind of heard it before. But that's not to say that this record is bad. I do love it. It sounds great. And like all Hendrix reissues, you get all kinds of great photos and artwork. And you even get a great little booklet, which kind of breaks down all the tracks and gives a little insight and tells you who did what and what played what, which is great. These Hendrix reissues just never let down. I am absolutely pleased with them. And then up next are some records that I did pick up at a local record store, which is the closest one to where I live at. It's called the Rock Shop. And I had a job interview at a place that was right near the mall where the record store is located at. And I thought that it went very well. So I thought, you know what? Job interview went well. I'm feeling quite positive. I'm going to spend some money. So I went in there. I looked around a bit. And I remember I looked in the record store day bin, all the leftovers they had, and they had the Stones' Satanic Majesty's Request pressing. It's the blue vinyl with the splatter. I was so tempted to pick it up, but considering that I had never really listened to the album before, I didn't want to take a risk, and the price was a little too steep for me considering it is a single LP and whatnot. So I did not stick to that, but I did find some other great stuff. Right up the bat, we have Genesis Spot the Pigeon. This is an EP that came out around 1977, I want to say. It's 3 tracks that were recorded during the Wind and Wuthering sessions, but did not make it on the final album. And honestly, the track Inside and Out on this was a missed opportunity. It is one of the best songs that Genesis has ever written and recorded, and it only lies on this EP and maybe the odd compilation somewhere. It's a real shame. It's a beautiful track and should have made it on the album. But this EP is great, and the cool thing with this is that this was done by a company called Audio Fidelity, and it's the same 3 tracks on both sides. One side plays at 33 RPM and the other one plays at 45 RPM. Now, when it comes to audiophile releases, I never really was a fan of the 45 RPM idea. I mean, yeah, I get it. The grooves are spread out more, so you get a little bit more fidelity and a little bit more nuances. But when it came to playing this, I played the 45 side just to see what it's all about. And I was blown away by it completely. Just so much detail. All words can't describe it. I mean, my opinions on the whole 45 RPM records thing, like records that could be a great single LP or spread over to 2, it's changed. It hasn't triggered me right off the bat to go out and buy 45 RPM pressings, but I pretty much understand why they are favored upon. And I'll show it off too because it is pressed on great, lovely blue vinyl. As you can see, that's the 33 side, and then you have the 45 side. So, sounds very, very nice. And like I said, inside and out, missed opportunity. So put that back. And up next is a record that I actually bought used. Now, I normally don't buy used records, but that's one of the great things about shopping at an actual store, is because if you see a record that you want, but it's a used copy, you can actually kind of take it out and examine it for yourself. Now, apparently, according to the people that tongue-tied, that were working at the store, this guy that brought this record in was a collector. He took very good care of it, stored them in great sleeves and everything, and it's basically a mint copy of sorts. Jimi Hendrix Experience, Freedom, Atlanta Pop Festival. I would say of all the live Hendrix stuff that's out there, this is an absolutely phenomenal one. This is so far, this is my favorite Hendrix live release. You have such a variety of tracks. You have Spanish Castle Magic, Loverman, Room Full of Mirrors, Message to Love, and then of course you have classics like Foxy Lady, Purple Haze, Hey Joe. Then you have Voodoo Child. Just, it is jam-packed with stuff. And cool thing with this is that it is actually a first pressing, because all the first pressings are numbered. So, and I believe it's out of the first 3,000 to 5,000 copies, I think. So I have copy number 1,664. So very cool. Up next is a remixed version of an album that I already own in my collection. Back then, I wasn't really too big on owning multiple copies of the same album, like in terms of like if it's the same version of an album. But I kind of made a new rule that remixes are fine, I guess you can say. So I decided to pull the plunge on this, and plus because it was very cheap. This was like, I got this for $12, $13. And this record does kind of hold some sentimental value to it, because it is one of the earliest albums that I can recall listening to as a kid. And that is Kiss Destroyer. This is the resurrected version. Basically, in 2012, Bob Ezrin, the original producer of this record, went back and got the multi-tracks and remixed it. Doesn't exactly make this version better, because I do kind of prefer the original, but I think this is a cool, interesting way of listening to the album in a different perspective. And I'll show it off, because now this is the original artwork that was intended for the album, and obviously they had to change it because they had different outfits, because this has like the Alive Dress to Kill outfits, but on the cover, the original, they have the regular Destroyer Rock and Roll Over outfits. And this also comes with a really nice insert. See, like, here's the original, so you can see the differences between the both. Just like that. And then you open it up, and there's some great liner notes written by Bob Ezrin, and you have some great photos taken from the sessions and give some insight of the remixing process, which was very cool, and I really did enjoy it very much. And like I said, this album holds a special place in my heart, because Kiss is my favorite band, and I remember in preschool drumming my way through Kiss Destroyer with 2 wooden sticks and a bunch of blocks, and it was on cassette, and I had big headphones on listening to it. How I still remember that, I don't know, but man, what a good time. Now, these next 2 records are some records that I got from Amazon. Basically, one of my mom's friends gave me an Amazon gift card as like a graduation gift, so I thought, hey, this can be spent rather quick. So first we have Time in a Word by Yes. This is the band's second album. This has the original lineup of John Anderson, Chris Squire, Tony Kaye, Peter Banks, and Bill Bruford. This is notable for having the orchestral arrangements that kind of made Peter Banks depart from the band. Overall, in terms of early Yes, considering like what they were really doing before they kind of found their feet with the Yes album, there's some really great tracks on here. You have Sweet Dreams, you have Astral Traveler, the title track, No Opportunity Necessary. This is a very, very nice record, and I would say of the early Yes stuff, this kind of really nails it very, very well. And up next, we have the solo debut of Ted Nugent. Now, you can say what you can say in terms of Ted Nugent's political views, but you cannot deny the fact that this man put out some great kick-ass rock records in the 70s. This, of course, has Stranglehold, Just What the Doctor Ordered, Snakeskin Cowboys, Motor City Madhouse. I mean, you cannot go wrong with this record. This is absolutely wonderful. I absolutely love this record. And of course, I'll showcase the vinyl off. And the cool thing with this is that it is on very nice kind of green translucent vinyl, which is nice. Very cool. You have that old school Epic label, the orange Epic label. And there's a couple more Ted Nugent records that are pressed on this green vinyl. A company called, what's the company that did this? I think it's called Culture Factory. I think they pressed this one up. So I thought, give it a shot. I mean, plus I don't have any Ted Nugent in my collection, so I thought this was a good place to start. So there we go. And the next record that I'm going to show is actually a trade that I did with a Kiss fan. So if you peel back to my last haul, you saw that I got the 1978 solo albums of Paul Stanley and Peter Criss. Now, I think I explained it in the video, but I'll rephrase it here. For some reason, according to a Kiss podcast that I listened to, some of the 2014 reissues are slowly going out of print and are becoming hard to come by and are kind of getting a little bit more pricey. And that included the Paul Stanley and Peter Criss albums. There was a retailer based in England called You Discover Music, and they offered them for about like $14 to $15, and then with shipping it came out to like $20, which is the average price of them. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. So I placed my order on both of them, and standard delivery was like 4 weeks. It was once it got to 5 weeks that I was kind of becoming curious as to what was going on with this order, because there was no tracking information and whatnot. So I contacted the company, and they said, call your local post office to see if they're holding it, and of course my postman knows to deliver my records. So it wasn't a case of that. So they sent out replacements, and they let me know. It was only a day later that they said that they sent out replacements that I received my initial order of those 2 albums. And of course I emailed them back, and I was like, hey, I just received my order. What's the best address that I can send the replacements back to? And surprisingly enough, they said, keep the replacements as a gesture of goodwill. So that was very nice of them. But I'm sitting on 2 extra copies. So in terms of the Peter Criss record, my girlfriend's mother's boyfriend is a big Kiss fan, and he loves Peter Criss. That's his favorite member. So he got it for his birthday, which was just kind of recently around the corner. So I was sitting on an extra Paul Stanley record. So I'm a part of a Kiss vinyl Facebook group called Kiss My Wax, and I posted the record up on the page, and I explained the same story that I just said. And I was like, does anyone want to trade? And I listed what records I needed in my collection. And a guy messaged me on Facebook, and we made a trade, and couldn't have been happier. This is Monster. This is, as of now, the band's latest album. I love the new Kiss stuff that has come out in recent years. Both this album came out in 2012, and then in 2009 we got Sonic Boom, which was the first studio album in over 10 years. This record is very much a homage to just traditional classic rock. They weren't really trying to aim to be like, have it sound like Rock and Roll Over or Love Gun. This is just an all-round great classic rock record. The music is great, but unfortunately the vinyl packaging is what it is, because you got the front and the back cover and just the record and a anti-static sleeve. There's no inserts, there's no lyrics, no nothing. If you have the CD copy, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but I digress. Just very glad to have it in my collection. And up next was a little bit of an impromptu buy. I was aware of this record coming out again and being reissued and also remixed and whatnot, but it was something that I was just kind of like, all right, you know, I was aware of it, but once it actually appeared in the store that I work at, I decided to pick it up for myself. And I'm very glad that I did, because it kind of rekindled, it kind of rekindled my my appreciation for the band. And that is Megadeth's Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good, and this is dubbed the Final Kill edition. This album is a seminal thrash metal album. This is remixed from the original multi-tracks. And there's also another record in here of live cuts and the band's original demo. And I remember I was really into this record when I was in high school because I was on a big Megadeth kick, and that kind of dwindled away. And I don't have any Megadeth records in my collection, so this was a first. And I am very glad to have this, and also because where I worked at FYE, we got an exclusive pressing in, and this is limited to 500 copies, so it is very limited, and it's pressed on nice white vinyl. This is the main album LP. The other LP of the bonus tracks comes in white vinyl as well. And just listening to it, I was absolutely floored again with just the songs and how fast those guys were. I mean, these guys, they were really giving bands like Metallica a run for their money. Just absolutely great, and you can definitely see why Megadeth stands out amongst Metallica, Anthrax, and Slayer as part of the big four in the world of thrash metal. Just absolutely sensational. And up next were some records that I purchased at an FYE that I had to work at, which was about an hour away from where I lived. So I traveled up to work for a day. And I always like doing that because I do like meeting other personnel. But of course, I love to see what other stores sell that mine doesn't. So I found this, and this was sitting on a shelf, and it caught my eye immediately. And I scanned the barcode to see if there was any deals going on with it, and it was marked as a red hot deal, which means that whatever sale price it has, it's 50% off the sale price. So I got this record, well, it's not a record, it's a box set, for a mere $35. Unbelievable. David Bowie, Bowie at the Beeb. This is a box set that covers some particular highlights from Bowie's BBC radio sessions from 68 to 72. So it's a great document of Bowie's formative years, starting out as like an acoustic folk kind of guy, and then going into the Ziggy type stuff. Just a great live document of those early Bowie years. Just really, really love it, and I'm surprised that I got it for the price that I got it for. Very, very cool. And then I also picked up this. Now, I was aware of this particular pressing. This came out around October of, I believe it was 2017, as part of Rhino Records' Rocktober campaign. And it was on my wish list for a while, and I just kind of thought I'll get to it whenever. But when I saw it there, I was like, hey, why not? This is Ace Frehley, Frehley's Comet. This is his first kind of proper solo album after leaving Kiss. So this was in 1987. You have tracks like Breakout, Rock Soldiers, Into the Night. Like, those are some of the notable ones. Just a great record from Ace. In terms of solo stuff, Ace is the one that I go to. In terms of like members of Kiss that do their solo projects, I never have to doubt Ace. He always puts out great records. And this comes on a very lovely sort of sky blue marbled vinyl, which is nice, with a nice black label, which is cool. And up next were some records that I acquired, believe it or not, and I'm going to do a video on this in the future. I ordered these off of Walmart, surprisingly. They had these records dirt cheap, and I had a 10% off voucher, and I thought, hey, might as well. This is... Whoops, let me just get these records straight. You can probably already see it from the back. This is Jimi Hendrix live at Berkeley. This is the second show that he did at the Berkeley Community Theater in California in 1970. A bit of a different atmosphere for Hendrix live stuff, because normally he's playing the arenas and whatnot. But with this, it's a more intimate setting, and it also features a lot of the newer stuff that he was working on that would end up on the posthumous release, First Rays of the New Rising Sun. And this, of course, features the booklet and all kinds of great packaging and artwork here. This was cool. And then, believe it or not, I got this for an astounding price that I'm not going to disclose on this video, because I'm going to do a video on how you can acquire record deals and whatnot. It'll come in the future. Weezer's Green Album. Original master recording, MoFi. for an unbelievable price that you will find out in a future video. This record sounds absolutely awesome. This is the classic Weezer sound that everyone knows them for. After doing Pinkerton and kind of not falling off the deep end, but kind of dipping their toes into different waters with that, they really came back to their roots with this, and this is an absolutely fantastic record. And it's such a shame that all the songs are so short, because when this record was over, I was like, what? That's it? Nothing else? Absolutely essential. If you see this MoFi release, snag it. Now, to continue the trend of MoFi releases, I decided to pull the trigger on this. This is Lynyrd Skynyrd Street Survivors. This, of course, as you can see, this is a silver label pressing. And what do I think of it? You will find out in a future video coming on this channel. I will say this, though. I am pleased. That's all I'll say. This features the original artwork that was later pulled after the plane crash. As you can see, Steve Gaines, he's kind of engulfed in flames. And unfortunately, he passed away at the plane crash. So this kind of restores the artwork, and here's the backside. And this is kind of what the revised artwork would look like, just the basic black photo. So that's pretty cool to have. Up next is another big record in this haul. I did another unboxing of this. This is the new Ghost album. It is called Prequel. This right here is the 3D lenticular cover edition, which comes on red vinyl with black swirls. So you can kind of see the effect here, which is cool. And I'll showcase the vinyl as well. Very beautiful piece of red vinyl there. Looks great, and this sounds absolutely fantastic. I mean, this was mastered very well for vinyl. I believe Joe Laporta is the guy that mastered this record. I believe he also did the vinyl cutting for this as well, and I was very pleased with it. I was quite blown away. Not that Ghost has had a history of badly mastered records, but this one sounded very good in particular. And up next are some other records that came from that Soundstage Direct order that I mentioned earlier in this video. They got in some more records, and they said, we'll ship these out as soon as we get them. They were expecting them, so I thought, all right, do that. This is Get Your Yayas Out, Rolling Stones in Concert. This is kind of, I don't know if you can say this is the band's official first live album, because there is the Got Live If You Want It album from like 1965, 66. But this is the one that they kind of regard to the most as their formal live debut. Considering live albums and what it took to really pull it off, this stands out. This is a excellent sounding, wonderfully recorded live record from Madison Square Garden in 1969. Got the backside. And I remember, this is one of my dad's favorite records. And I remember as a kid, he played me this. And the beginning, how it has all the taped intros of the announcers going, sorry for the delay, is everybody ready? I just thought that was the coolest thing growing up. So it's nice to have my own copy. And like the Let It Bleed album that I showed earlier, this is on clear vinyl again. Once again, very, very clear vinyl. You can really see through the dead wax how clear that is. Very nice. And track listing wise, it's more of a heavy emphasis on some of the recent stuff that they were working up. So you have things like Street Fighter Man, you have Live With Me, Sympathy for the Devil, Honky Tonk Women, things like that, Jumpin' Jack Flash. Essential live record. This is a absolute must-have standout live record. This is the best example before live albums kind of became a part of the norm, I guess you could say, with albums such as Kiss Alive and Frampton Comes Alive, things like that. So very great to have that. And then we have Green Day's 39 Smooth. I love early Green Day. Just, not to say that I don't like their newer stuff, but just there's something so special about the early records, such as this, Kerplunk and Dookie. It's just fast-paced melodic punk. I don't know if you can call it pop punk, maybe. I think that's kind of predating the term. But this is absolutely great. You have tracks like At the Library, the title track Green Day, Road to Acceptance, 16, Rest, I Was There. Absolutely great. Love this record. And this also did come with the 2 early EPs on 7-inch vinyl as well. Those are tucked away in my 7-inch cases, but they did come with the record as well. Up next is one that I saw drop in price on Amazon. I just figured, what the hell. That is Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood. This one has all the hits on it, and it's probably their most direct, focused studio effort. You're probably asking yourself if I am a huge Motley Crue fan, because they do appear frequently in my hauls. And the only reason why they appear so frequently is because their records are cheap. I mean, I think I got this for like $13. And I think that's also what I got the Girls, Girls, Girls record for. And then I got all the other ones for like $11 to $12. So they're cheap and they're affordable. So that's why I snagged them. Good stuff. And last, this batch of records are some records that I picked up at the Rock Shop. And if you follow me on social media, I did say that I did film a video at the store, and that video should be coming very, very soon. And I figured it was a good time to stock up and do a little mini Rock Shop haul. So first, I have this. This is King Crimson's Islands. This is the only record that I needed to sort of complete my early King Crimson collection. From what I have not listened to this record yet as of the filming of this video, but from what I've understand, it's kind of still in the jazzy kind of roots area, kind of like how the Lizard album was. I am familiar with a couple tracks off of this because they did Sailor's Tale and The Letters on their recent US tour, which I did catch. So I am familiar with those tracks, but overall the rest of the album is going to be a first listen, and I am very excited to see what it sounds like, because King Crimson recently has turned into one of my favorite progressive rock bands. And following that progressive kind of motif, we have this. This is Dream Theater's self-titled album from 2013. This is one that I like it, and I remember I got it when it came out back in 2013, and I listened to it once, and that was kind of it. So I really wanted to revisit this record, and I wanted to get the vinyl copy, and I was very impressed. It's very different in context to their other albums, because of course Dream Theater is known for having some of the longer pieces that extend out to like 15, 20 minutes, even 42 minutes if you think about 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. But this has some shorter songs on them. There is one big epic that takes up the entire 4th side of the album. Very impressed though. I mean, I do like this record a lot. Mike Mangini, he's like the new guy in the band. He replaced Mike Portnoy on drums. He really adds a very musical, melodic way to his playing, which is much appreciated. Not to say that Mike Portnoy didn't have that, but it's something different, and I do like it a lot. So I am very glad to have this. And plus, I was listening to a lot of Dream Theater at the time when I went, so I kind of wanted to leave with some Dream Theater. And I also wanted to leave with some Doors, which I had been listening to a lot at the time as well. This is Waiting for the Sun. This is sort of I guess you can say maybe the seeds were sown for what would be the kind of turmoil that would go on within the band. The story is that they wanted to put Celebration of the Lizard, which was their big epic piece with Morrison's poetry, as the second side, but instead they used the Not to Touch the Earth bit and only put it on this album. But overall, this is one that I really had my eye on for some time, and there's gaps in my Doors collection, surprisingly. They only have 6 albums out. Well, technically they have 8 if you count the ones without Jim, but I was very proud to get this. You have tracks like Hello, I Love You, Love Street, Unknown Soldier, 5 to 1, Spanish Caravan. Just some really, really great gems on this record. Very glad to have it. And we have come to the final record of this haul. And last but not least, this is an album that I did not see myself ever getting, or let alone appreciating, and it hasn't been until recently that I added this album to my want list, and I actually got it rather quickly from the point that I said that I wanted it. Pretty Odd by Panic at the Disco. Now, Panic at the Disco is a newer modern band that I didn't really work my way to on my own. My girlfriend is a huge fan of them, and we're going to see them live in concert this summer. and she wanted to show me all their stuff kind of starting from the first album going into the present day. And the first album stuff, which is an album called Fever You Can't Sweat Out, it's very much in the pop punk vein, but it's nothing I haven't heard before. So it's not like I hated it, but I did like it. It's just after a while I was like, okay, I kind of get it. But then tracks from this album popped up, and I had to get this album right away. This album is a complete 180 if you look at their previous record. This record is infused with, I would say, 65 to 68 era Beatles melodies and instrumentation. Some of the arrangements on this kind of remind me of Pet Sounds and Smile from the Beach Boys. It is absolutely crazy, and it's a real shame that this record apparently is not showcased in their live set. This is just absolutely wonderful, and of course I'm a sucker for Beatles and Beach Boys stuff, so that's kind of why I gravitated to this record. And I listened to a good majority of the tracks on this, but I decided, you know what, I'm just going to buy the record and I'll see for myself, and I recommend this record to anyone that is a Beatles and Beach Boys fan. It's funny because they weren't even going for a Beach Boys sound on this, but it does come across in a sense. But in terms of Beatles influence, this is one you must check out. Really recommend this to everybody. Whew, if you have sat through this video, man, I give you props. This is a long one. I am quite surprised that it went this long. That is my vinyl haul for May and June of 2018. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There's all kinds of great content coming your way very soon. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the record spinning.